Hello, welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. I am your host, Megan, a lifelong movement artist and facilitator. Each week, I invite you inside of the honest conversations that I have been having with some incredibly inspiring movement and well-being practitioners, as we unpack the beautiful roller coaster it is to pursue a lifestyle built around movement and well-being. Join us as we share and reflect on the moments where movement lights your soul on fire, to the situations where you begin to question everything. Welcome to episode 8 of Conversations for the Moving Self. Please welcome Summer Jupp, who is a really special mentor and teacher of mine, originally from London. Summer and I met on my own yoga teacher training at Yoga Haven in London, but Summer is also a yoga teacher in her own practice, a yoga teacher trainer, a psycho-conscious coach, and a co-founder of Arkspace Wellbeing, which is a well-being agency. Summer is such a warm heart, and every time that I've stepped into this space with Summer, I feel such a huge sense of care for the whole journey in and out of practices. And yeah, I also had the chance to work with Summer in a more one-on-one space through coaching, and feeling Summer's commitment to activating someone's dreams, kind of enabling someone to take risks and be vulnerable, but in a safe space, is just such a special gift. And I'm so excited to be able to chat with her today about her own practice, where she's at in her journey, and yeah, how things are going. Hello, Summer.
Oh my God,
Um,
that's the nicest introduction ever. Like that's actually made me feel a little bit emotional. Thank you, sweetie. That was so lovely. Honestly, it's my honor and absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you, thank you. I would like to ask you today just how you're showing up for your movement and well-being practice in this moment.
Oh, it's a funny one. We sort of very lightly touched upon this before we started recording. And it's if I'm being like completely honest, I don't feel like I am, which I think is a really conflicting space to be in when you work in wellbeing, when you're teaching more classes than you're practicing. And you it's like, so I've broken my foot. So that's part of the reason why I'm not moving so much at the moment. Um, and it sort of highlights the sort of foundation and underpinning that movement gives us mentally, not just physically, and how easily we step out of a habit and step out of a routine and just come to accept the fallout of that, which is something that I think I've really done recently. Um, which is why coming into this conversation today, it's been such a beautiful personal reminder, because like I said to you, like it's made me sit and look at, how am I showing up for myself? Where have I been moving? But noticing a different narrative in doing that, which I think has been really lovely. And I'm sure we'll sort of get into this. But when I look over my evolution of what movement has meant to me over my lifetime, it's existed under so many different narratives and so many different reasons, and some really positive, some super negative reasons for commitment to movement. And what I found is, whilst I can feel the frustration that I'm not moving my body right now, like I just want to go for a walk, like even silly stuff like that. Um, but I'm doing it with way more compassion than younger me would have done. Like I would have beaten myself up massively. Whereas now I'm like, it's a moment in time. Like these moments too shall pass. I know it's such a like coined phrase, but it's been this really beautiful reminder that as human beings, we are in constant transit, constant evolution, constant movement. Um, not just like the movement of the body, but the movement, interestingly, the movement of the self, right? Like goes into like the title of this conversation. So it's a funny moment to be talking about my movement practice, but a really lovely one because I think sometimes it's just like mask off, like wave the white flag or whatever it is, and just be like, just because people work in movement practices, work in well-being, it doesn't mean we're always well and always moving. So it's, yeah, it's kind of a very human moment to come into the conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think it's quite a valuable side of being a movement and well-being practitioner to share as well, to encourage people who are maybe interested in pursuing a movement and well-being career, that both when you're entering that space, that there's not the necessity to be perfect 100% of the time, but equally for the uh, student moment to just be able to take the pressure off of when you're in class, like always needing to achieve this sense of perfection, or yeah, just putting unnecessary pressure on, yeah, perfection. I'm gonna say that word again. Um, but I think, yeah, it's also, I was also just thinking, I'm sending you well wishes for your foot as well, and know that in injury spaces, like it's hard sometimes because of the emotional turmoil that like lack of movement puts on the body, but then equally like life still continues, and so how you balance the the sides of that, and yeah, just the acceptance as well, that even if you do a movement practice to an extent that works for where the injury is, sometimes it doesn't always solve all the problems. And yeah, just sending you warmth and flowing energy.
I appreciate that so much because it's a really, I also think as well as it being like an opportunity to like illuminate to like, your students how like we are like sort of when you're speaking about the word perfection, like I always come back to this. I'm like, what the fuck is perfection? Like there is no definition of perfection because it exists on an always moving scale and it's different for all of us. And you might have heard me say this in my classes, but something I always love to say about yoga as a practice is it's a reminder that we're a part of nature and everything in nature is perfectly imperfect. Like there is no perfection. So like let it be a bit messy. But it's also a really valuable tool as a teacher because it's really humbling. Like I have been so I've not been practicing, but I've been teaching, which has been funny with like my big club foot, like trying to work out what I can demo, what I can't demo, and like not push it too far. But I teach a group of, I've definitely told you about these people before because they're literally like the loves of my week. But on a Wednesday morning, I teach a group of like, they're about over 65, over 70, limited mobility. And we do one chair yoga class, and then we do like an introduction to hatha yoga. Some do both, some do one, like it's very mixed ability. But it's been really useful for me actually to come in with an injury and notice in my own body how things that we take for granted, for example, like I've like completely like we don't do a vinyasa, but we do put hands on blocks in a forward fold and like step back into tabletop. Now I can't currently do that with my foot bending. And it's just been this really wonderful reminder of obviously we work to the students in the room, but to really consider how something that we take for granted in an able body is such a complex experience for somebody that's experiencing something or has a disability that they're living with. So it's been really powerful to be able to remember that. And then I think that fuels the ability to be a better teacher in the long run. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like letting go of like letting go of what you think you've got to be like as a teacher as well. Like I've just had to completely adjust everything. And it's like let the messiness exist on both sides, which is yeah, as a professional difficult, but then like you say, personally, the injury journey is a really interesting one because I mean, I don't know about for you, but like for me, movement is far less about my body and far more about my mind. Like I think at this stage in my life, that hasn't
Yeah.
always been the case, but like I'm not hitting the gym to change my body anymore. Thankfully. That's probably not true. That's probably, I'm probably giving myself too much credit there. I try to not move my body to change my body,
Yeah.
but it's very much about creating a space in a really busy life where I'm showing up for myself. That's why I want to move my body because it's one time that I can shut the noise and the busyness of like everything else away. So I think that's what I'm missing the most, if I'm honest, is that me time.
Yeah, definite, 100%, 1,000%. Yeah, I took a aerial class this morning, and it was
Oh,
one of the first. I've only done like two or three before ever in my life. And yeah, I was journaling after the class, just separately in my day routine, and was reflecting on this concept of like the beginner's mind, but equally like I think that's been coming up for me recently a lot the past couple months of just like how can I find something new to try, and I'm really enjoying trying different movement practices, but there's something also about like because it was a completely new space, I couldn't then like put in to I couldn't put pressure of the aesthetics or like how it's helping my body because there was so many other things my mind needed to be aware of and paying attention to, and yeah, it really felt like it offered that sense of care for the mind through the body, I think, because it was a completely new space where I think sometimes when I start to even just return to a movement practice that I'm more familiar with, it's easy to start to either shift into the teaching side of things of like, oh, what can I do in terms of my next class? Or, oh, how can I like achieve X, Y, and Z? Which isn't achieving things is also great, but it reminded me of that feeling of like, this is why I'm moving nowadays, and this is why I feel good when I'm moving nowadays. Um, Even if, yeah, sometimes we end up in the gym and there's other societal pressures in our head. Um, yeah.
this feels like such a wild time around like body image as well. And I think regardless of what your movement practice is, when it's centered around the body, it can be really difficult to not fall into like comparison and critique of who you are. Like I know I felt this when I first came into teacher training. Like I'm a size like my average size, I'd say, is 12 to 14. With my hormone issues, that can fluctuate either side pretty massively in the space of 1 month. Like I couldn't tell. My dress size is elasticated waist because my clothes fit differently on a different week of my cycle. So it's really difficult to not fall it. Like when I first came to teacher, I was like, oh my God, like I'm not super skinny, I'm not super flexible. Like my balance and my strength have always been like the foundational parts of my practice that have come more naturally to me. Um, but that comparison space is just, it's like the thief of joy. And if there isn't joy, it isn't well-being. Like when we
Mhm.
try so hard to be well, we are no longer being well. Like I had the most gorgeous coaching session last night with one of our practitioners, and she used to work in a law firm. She's a therapist, and she works with how she would define like high achieving women, but often high achieving women don't know they're high achieving women because they beat themselves up all the time. And it's like often they have the most extensive wellness, well-being schedule, right? They'll do a HIIT class, they'll go for a whatever run, they'll get a deep sports massage, they'll do all these things, but there's no break in the day. And there's no moment of reflection of asking, like, why am I doing this? Like, why, like, is this what I need? Is this what I want? Or is this because TikTok is telling me that now I need to be a member of a run club or a former Pilates studio, a spa and wellness space? And also, don't forget that you should be spinning all of the time because it's in a funky room. Like, there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure to be well right now that it's making me feel unwell. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
literally.
It feels so, it just feels so counterintuitive. And I was saying this actually on our podcast the other day, like when we start talking about wellness in that space, we're no longer talking about human wellness. We're talking about commercialism. We're talking about marketing, and we're talking about a system to generate money, not human satisfaction and wellness. And I think that's just it's such a shame
Yeah,
in so many ways.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yes. Like hands up. I it also, as you were speaking, made me think about how then there's also it becomes a game of money, exactly as you said, with like commercialism and it relates so much to the work you're doing with Arkspace and trying to advocate for access to well-being services in a way that isn't, yeah, so rooted in like capitalism. Um and yeah, this I almost wonder for me, like I think personally, sometimes the if I were to be in a regimented schedule of like four back-to-back classes
Mhm.
of different practices that and then go get a massage and then go take an ice bath, like you're running so much mentally, physically, emotionally, like then yeah, probably is the moments that lead us to burnout and we then later go, ah, that's why. Okay. And then it cycles back because of the pressures that are coming from everywhere. But it's a nice moment to kind of tune back and like what is well-being for me right now? And yeah, we could sit and think on it for ages. And yeah, each chapter of life is going to present a different version of that. So thank you for sharing where
No,
you
I
were at.
was thinking about this before we started the conversation. I was like, what has like the lifetime of my, well, like my movement life looked like? Because as a kid, I didn't do, like, I'm not a kid that was like in dance or played a sport or did anything like that. Like, we weren't from us, like, our my upbringing was humble. Like, we didn't have money to go to clubs, so we didn't go to clubs. Like, that's just not what our life looked like, and we didn't have access to like free activities, so stuff like that just didn't exist as a child. So I never learned to move my body. And I mean, like at high school, I was telling my boyfriend this the other day, like I was so naughty at school. Like I was that kid, and that's okay because I was going through a lot as a teenager, and that's okay. But like to the point where I just refused to do PE because I just didn't like getting changed in the middle of the day. And because I never moved my body, I was so embarrassed to be in group activities. So I just said to the PE teachers, I was like, I'm not joining, I'll go and do art instead, and somehow managed to bargain a deal that I didn't have to do PE and I could go and do an extra art with the teacher I like. So I was like always negotiating, even as a teenager. I think like the sort of, yeah, business side of me has probably always been there. And that was like a space where like movement just didn't exist at all. And then I think I went into a space of obsession. And I wonder, like, this comes from having had conversations with my best friends who have been dancers. Like, I think I definitely held an internal bias before I became best friends with them that, like, well, dancers just like they have it easy. They're so flexible. Like, they have this. And it's like, holy shit, there is nothing easy about the journey to be able to move your body in that particular way. Um, so I think I found in like recent years a whole new level of empathy and dismantling of bias. But I was definitely being like dragged by insecurity. Like growing up like with an eating disorder and disordered eating, like it was all about like how small can I become? Like, can I get smaller? Can I like I saw a picture of myself the other day when I was like 21 and I was tiny. And I remember looking at that picture when I was 21, being like, oh my God, I'm so fat. And I had bones popping out. So it was like this like whole obsession with like be smaller, be smaller, be smaller. And then one of the things I love about yoga is I feel like it's allowed me to dismantle that and be like, and yoga and therapy and Reiki have let me dismantle this belief system because being smaller doesn't make you a different person. Like, it's not like it's society that's told us a bigger body is a problem when it's like, no, it isn't. Like, it just wholeheartedly isn't. We are all built differently, first of all. So we could have the same diet, same movement practice, whatever for our entire lives. We're going to look different. That is a really beautiful thing. Like, it's great that we all look different. Um, but it feels so, I feel like I'm in a space, an up and down space with it for sure, because I feel like, I don't know about you, but my Instagram, weight loss injection here, weight loss patch here, like eat less, move more, you'll become skinny. And then when you're skinny, you'll be happy. And it's like for the love of Brie, like leave me alone. Like I can't, it's just so frustrating. So I think I definitely go in this fluctuation of fighting with my movement practice still. But I do think like my foundation and I guess maturity around my movement practice is it should be if you're not doing it and you're feeling good, like if it's being driven by an insecurity, a sadness, or a belief that you will be a better person when the movement's not the answer, something deeper like therapy or energy work will probably help you more. Um,
Mm,
yeah. Sorry, I feel like I've just
yeah.
gone on, but like
Oh, it's also like it's so important though, and I think it's so much more common than it feels like when it's happening to you. Like
yeah.
it's easy in that moment to feel like, oh, like if it's all here, it's all like in super. I was talking with my students yesterday about like when we want to use our magnifying glasses and when we don't, like, and yeah, like I think in that moment the magnifying glass is already too close, like, um. But yeah, like I relate quite a bit to a lot of the things you were sharing and incredible sentiments that you're sharing as well of like on the other side of it, how it still happened. It's still something that's part of you and it's an ever evolving relationship, but equally that there's so much more joy and care and a space for longevity with uh, both like human self and also like movement practice specific when we can root maybe unroot the movement practice being about something aesthetic, something societal, and instead that it's for you and it's for care And yeah, like equally, yes, okay, you can still go into a class and push yourself physically and be super excited about something and have obsession in a different way, as long as there's, yeah, enough grounding in the why and yeah, knowing when to turn outside and go like, okay, I need someone else's perspective on this, I need a professional's perspective on this, etc., so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also, where society is at and social media is at, when you were speaking as well about your upbringing through movement and your entry into movement spaces, and yeah, the pressure that comes mentally as a kid of like seeing different experiences of life around you, and then maybe feeling like there's not space or access for you if you didn't have the same entry as someone else, I think is important to highlight, because I think often that's the conversation that gets softened, like made quieter, and somehow like gets a little bit in the shadow. And I think it's important to highlight like that there's never a bad time to enter a movement space. And
No.
there's never a time that you like it's too late. Um, and
No.
that brings me back to the same conversation around your classes with the students working with restricted mobility or disability or things like that. Like I was having a conversation with a close friend recently who works with different mobility uh situations in their own body, and like we were just having the conversation of how to overcome the, yeah, that first step into the space, like the
Yes.
access, the entry point. And I think practitioners like you who are able to come in with a sense of warmth and a sense of like invitation and yeah, the reflection that you have of being able to go like, ah, okay, like also in this moment I'm learning even more that I can offer them, instead of it just being like, okay, no, now I'm injured, I can't teach in the same way that I could, and finding it completely, I mean, yes, some days it's going to feel defeating, of course, but to be able to also have that sense of reflection is
Mm.
super valuable and inspiring. So thank you
You know,
for
when you
being.
say that, I just think of my mum. Like, so my mum never really had a movement practice. Like years ago, like years and years ago, she kind of used to go to the gym and used to swim, but it's never been like a part of life. And a few years ago, she had a really serious health scare, which was actually, if you look at it all, was driven by the stress of work. So she wouldn't mind me sharing this, but she worked so hard for her entire life for this company. Was so stressed with a particular part, like transitional moment of the business, that she was getting constant UTIs, was overprescribed medication, and ended up in like an acute liver failure and damage. So she ended up really sick in hospital. My mum is 59, I think, yeah, 59, yeah, 66. She's 59 this year. What month are we in? October, yeah,
October.
she's 59 in this moment. So you know when you're like, I was like, is it March? Is it
Yeah.
May? I don't know. Um, and and sadly, like her movement practice has come from, I think, definitely like a fear and a wake-up call of how precious the body is. And she now plays paddle regularly, she does reformer Pilates regularly. And she's somebody that was terrified to step into a movement space because it never felt like it was for her. It's like, and that's why I think movement, it's a social political issue, right? Because it comes down to who is the person that studios are sharing on their social media? Who is the person in the images? Because if they all look the same, that is the person you're saying like belongs in this space. And I think as an like she's now contemplating doing her reformer Pilates training because she wants to help other people her age that have been scared to get into movement to get into movement. And I've just watched like this transition of, do you know what? It's like confidence and connection that she has built from developing a movement practice. Like she's gone from this isolation space to the amount of friends she has, like all like she's just living this wonderful life at the age of like 59 and 60, which honestly, like I would say, obviously it's come from within her, but it's because she went to a reformer Pilates studio and the owner of it, Charlie, like that she's incredible. And she just never made my mum feel like she shouldn't be there. It was just encouragement. And it was like, yes, Tracy, you can do this. Yes, Tracy, you can do that. And she's just a pure example of like, no matter what age, no matter what experience, if you come across the right space, the right teachers, and the right community, we can make anybody feel comfortable in movement. It doesn't, but we as wellbeing practitioners, we really have a responsibility to look at the language in our marketing, the pricing of our studios, the people that are like visually representing us. Like, if everybody looks the same, you have a problem. Like you just do. Like you need to, and it's irresponsible and avoidant to assume that you can not look at that. Um, it's like my oldies. I get some people that come in that are like 75, never done yoga, and they come every week now. I mean, one of my students, do you know, I'm actually going to look at this on my phone because I wrote it down. One of my students yesterday, because I asked them why they come. And honestly, the most reason why they come, they all say it's like it combats loneliness. Um, but she literally said to me, oh no, did I not save it? Um, oh damn, I don't think I saved it. But she basically said to me, she was like, she called me like a weird combination. Like she was like, you're a really weird combination as a person. And I was like, don't know if I should like take this in a good way. But I think it's just about being human and being you and being silly and just not take she's not taking it too fucking seriously. Like
Mm.
we are so lucky to have these bodies. It's the literally the thing that keeps us here. And yet politically and socially, I mean, we are conditioned in femme bodies to hate them. Like it's like, and it's like, but it's really cool. Like this thing can do really amazing things and it keeps you alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to empower that narrative, like just unlocks so much more space and potential. Ugh, I love
How
it
do you
all.
do like with kids? Because I work with older people, but when you work with children, like it's obviously such a pivotal moment, like in their lives. Like how do you see their like relationship to like body and movement unfold as a teacher? And how do you handle that responsibility?
It's a huge, I think it, yeah, it's a huge responsibility. And I was speaking with another friend who also teaches a lot of young dancers recently about this because and young movers in any practice, but every day you're presented with something different, the same way when teaching any age. Recently, I had a friend come to me sharing like a student in her class had walked in saying like, "Oh, I'm just really fat today," and was like in the moment, how do I handle this? How do I hold the space and how do I like ah because it's such yeah, such a pivotal moment, such a moment with so much weight on the situation. Like, yeah. And we were then actually reflecting on how that situation went, but specifically also the power of the other people in the room because the student had said it in a way that the other dancers heard. And they all quickly chimed in and were like, oh, but like I'm shorter than you, but I'm this, and like, but also don't stand like that, because then of course you feel that way. And just like the power of not sitting like, yeah, the power of young minds, first of all, like they're incredible. And second of all, I was saying to the friend, I'm so glad that the other students were there. First of all, because it's their teammates in the situation. It's the people they're going to be comparing themselves to the most. But equally, like that, it was probably a huge moment for everyone in the room, from the teacher to the student who said it, and the other students in the room who maybe have the same narratives playing in their head, to see that everyone is having these narratives, and it's just, if we keep them quiet, they fester, and so on and so forth. On another like topic with young people, I recently was in a situation where a student is coming from a lower economic background and working with transport issues and different things, and really wants and has the drive to attend class and to train, and I think will want to take their movement practice on towards a career. And yeah, was really lucky to, it was kind of divine timing that another family at the studio was able to provide like a sponsorship of a student. And so they're able to come for free now, which is incredible. And now we're just working out the logistics. But I, in that moment, just was like, wow, I feel so lucky to have like witnessed this moment for this student as well, because just seeing the joy and seeing the power that movement has, and that like kindness has, and also, yes, the ability to share the privilege that the other family has, just made me feel like, wow, it's this thing of not giving up when you feel turned away by movement, because it's sometimes about right timing and the right person being around, and whether that's in terms of you feeling invited into the space because of your background and maybe seeing yourself at the front of the room through the teacher, or it's a logistical thing. But yeah, it just made me really realize, like, made me reflect on the moments that made it all possible for me to still be pursuing movement, and made me very, very grateful for that. Yeah, but it really, like, being a teacher in any age is, it's a huge responsibility.
Do you know, you talking then just made me think about, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and Paul from Maths, his like We've Got to Talk podcast, like I love it. He's like, I love his mind, but he was talking to, I can't remember for the life of me who he was talking to, but they were talking about how it's really small, subtle acts of kindness that lead people in new and different directions in life. In the same way, I guess, like acts of like malice can also shift people's direction in life. But if you think back to every like moment where someone believed in you, or where someone just said to you, do you know what, I think you can do this, or like, I've got your back, or like those tiny little moments where you have when you offer somebody kindness, the way it can shift someone's direction in life is actually endless and so profound. And we often think that like our growth and our achievements and all of that comes from us making these like, and sometimes there are big decisions and big moves that you have to make, but to have the confidence to do those is often built up from 100,000 little moments where someone's given you a nod, believed in you, or gone, do you know what, I really think you can do this. And it's just that reminder to, I think the society in so many ways like shames, like kind of like has made well, I used to work in the corporate world, and it was like kindness was like frowned upon. Like it's like, oh, don't be too nice because then you're weak. And it's
Mm.
actually
Mm.
the most powerful thing that we can do. Like if you think that somebody's like wearing a really nice outfit, or if somebody's got a really beautiful smile, or someone's energy is really lovely, like tell them. Why don't we tell people more? Like the person that serves you your regular coffee, like just be like compliment them, learn their name, like do the things that make us feel more human, because we could open up so much more space for people to take risks in life, whether that's their general life or taking a punt at themselves to start a movement practice or to go to that class or to join that club that's always felt like it's not for them. Like a kindness is just such an underrated, powerful tool in everybody's journey, that like if we could just smile at the old lady at the bus stop, you know,
Mhm.
like you don't know how lonely someone is. So yeah, it just really
Yeah,
sort of into that ripple effect, which it sounds like those students had in that moment of holding that student as
mm,
well, which is um
yeah,
powerful.
yeah. Kindness. Yeah. Well, I just I want to sit on this thing of kindness for some time. I think, yeah, it also made me think about, I think I've been noticing recently, like habits that we have. Even I was in the supermarket today and uh, this woman, her cheese fell out of her basket. And I went and picked it up and tried to hand it to her. And where I am, I'm working with a language barrier sometimes, and on my behalf as well. So at first she just kind of ignored me, and then I was like, okay, let me try again. And it still didn't work. And then I was like, okay, maybe she doesn't hear me. Maybe I'm not being confident enough. And so I spoke up a bit louder, and then she was like, "Oh my gosh, like you saved me a trip back to the store. I needed this cheese for the recipe." And I was like, "Okay, good." But like it was a test for me because I think in London I probably would have given up after the first try and been like,
Mm.
it's okay, like they're on their own thing. But maybe it's also because I had just done a nice class this morning, like I had filled my cup. Maybe, who knows? There could be so many little things that led to that moment. But yeah, how to bring awareness to our like subtle habits, and how can we interrupt and bring more kindness in a
Yeah,
given.
outwardly and inwardly, especially when it comes to movement, right? Like, yeah, I think it sort of loops back to how we started the conversation in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Inward kindness.
Mm,
And really, and balance, yeah, also loops back to that same thing of like the duality, the two sides of everything, the balance.
yeah.
Wow, I feel like we could go on for ages. Um, and I have so many more things I could chat with you about, but I'm aware of your time and it feels like a good place to pause. So thank you so much for, yeah, just sharing with such an open heart. And I really enjoyed hearing about where you are in your journey at the minute, and just chatting with you about movement and well-being and filling our cups and filling each other's cups. So thank you so much. Um, to all the listeners, please stay tuned for the next episodes. They can be found on all major streaming platforms. Episodes are dropped on Saturdays and guest announcements on Tuesdays. And if you have any topics that you would like to hear us unpack a bit more, please leave them in the comments below and share with your friends. Thank you again, Summer.
Thank you so
Uh,
much for having me. It's been a wonderful way to start the day.
Yay. Thank you so much for listening to episode 8 of Conversations for the Moving Self. We only have 2 more episodes in season 1, and I'm so excited to continue recording these episodes and sharing with you all. If you could please go ahead and follow on your main streaming platform, it would be super helpful for me to continue to grow the podcast. And also, if there's anyone you would love to hear from or any questions you would like to hear us talk about, please leave them in the comments below. I'm super excited to share with you season 2 in the coming months, and I'm planning at the minute for all of the exciting things that we have ahead, and would love to hear what's resonated with you, what you're interested in hearing about next, ultimately just connecting with the community of listeners a bit more. So please, please, please support, and can't wait to see you for the next episode. Sending you all warm wishes. Thank you so much from CMS. Lots of love.